What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. I've been doing the Pittsburgh Steelers offseason. Everything from free agency to the draft is on this channel, so go back and check those out. But I've started a new column now that our roster is, for the most part, set. We can still make one or two moves, picking up a couple guys that other teams might release, maybe still looking for a potential trade at wide receiver. There's still rumors out there, so we're not exactly 100% set. But now we're in OTAs. We've done the rookie mini camps. We're in the OTAs now. So the roster is mostly set. And I wanted to start comparing positions like I did last year, looking at certain roster groupings on this team, certain positional deficiencies and additions on this team, and comparing it to where we were this time last year to see if the Steelers have kind of gotten rid of some of the negative pieces, brought in some of the good pieces, who we might have lost, who could be an X factor this year, some things like that. I did this already with the inside linebacking core. I talked about the upheaval from last year to this year, kind of where we got better, where we got worse, what we still need, things like that. So check out the inside linebacker video on this channel. I just posted it a couple days ago. Now I'm talking about cornerback. Now this is, been an issue for the Steelers for the past couple seasons. Pittsburgh has tried to bring in a bunch of different guys, and especially in the last 2 years in the Omar Khan era, the Steelers have brought in several guys to try and make a difference, and a lot of them sadly haven't stuck. But the one thing we do have going for us in the cornerback room is the youth movement. So I'm going to go over real quick kind of what the upheaval was from last year to this year. We have basically brought in 4 new corners from last year to this year. We have let go of 4 corners from last year, and we have got 1 back from injury. So here's kind of the roster and where it sits right now. We've currently on the roster got Joey Porter Jr., Dante Jackson, Corey Trice, Darius Rush, Ryan Watts, Beanie Bishop, and Anthony Averett. So we've got 7 guys currently on the roster, and that includes 4 new names, Jackson, Watts, Bishop, and Averett. And we let go of 4 guys as well. That is, let 4 guys' contracts run out and not re-sign them. That is Patrick Peterson, Levi Wallace, Chandon Sullivan, and James Pierre. Those 4 guys were gone. So 4 guys out, 4 guys in, plus 1 guy back off injury. So the one consistent here is obviously Joey Porter Jr. He was the first pick in the second round last year. Took him too long to get full starting time. He came in as like a third down guy, an outside shutdown corner on third downs. And teams kept testing him, and he kept shutting guys down. He was showing very early that he was the best corner on this team. And why it took so long last year, when they started the season with Patrick Peterson and Levi Wallace, that was the worst starting cornerback duo in the NFL. I could not find a worse 1 and 2 corner on any team in the NFL anywhere, including the worst teams, than Peterson and Wallace last year. They were atrocious to start last year. Once Peterson got moved to safety, he played a little better, still had some plays given up, but played a lot better at safety than he was at corner. It just kind of showed that Peterson, for being as good as he is for as long as he has been, lost a step at corner, was losing a lot of speed, and was getting beat on a lot of plays. But Peterson still had more upside than Wallace did last year. So last year coming into the season, we had Peterson and Wallace starting at corner, and we had JPJ as the third guy coming off the bench. JPJ finally started getting starts around like week 6, week 7, and he was a lockdown corner from that point. He became very quickly, as a rookie in his first couple starts, showing the league that he is one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. He was recently voted as one of the best press corners in the league. He's physical. Yes, his downside is that he holds. He gets caught in penalties sometimes. He's too physical at times when battling for the ball in the air. But with that comes a hitter, comes a physical guy, a good physical specimen. He looks even more muscular and leaned out this year in terms of like losing body fat, putting on muscle mass. He looks bigger somehow. The dude's an absolute monster. He has good length. He has good ball skills. He does need to stop holding, but he is a number 1 shutdown corner. The dude is a bona fide star already with less than 1 full season of starts under his belt. The dude is a beast. So JPJ comes in. Peterson then moves to safety and plays slightly better, but still kind of up and down. Wallace winds up being pretty horrible, and then when he gets hurt, Pierre comes in and plays pretty horrible as well. Now, I want to acknowledge that Patrick Peterson's a Hall of Famer, and he's great, but again, at this point in his career, as a corner, playing corner, he was just not good. He lost several steps, and that was evident. His mouth was still running, and he was getting beat. And Levi Wallace has also been a very solid number 2 in his career. Played pretty well in Buffalo. Had a very good first season here in Pittsburgh. He was our best corner in his first year 2 years ago. for us. But last year, he lost a big step. And that usual thing you get from Wallace is some bad plays where he gets burnt, but also a lot of splash plays and a lot of turnovers. So you take the good with the bad because he's creating big plays. Last year, he was creating many less big plays and getting burnt a lot more. In the past, he would be like a 65% or 70% big play guy versus 30% negative play guy. Last year, he was like 80% bad play versus 20% good play. So both those guys were addition by subtraction, in my opinion. So right away, looking at the group from last year and how they played. Now, granted, we have the hindsight of seeing how last year's group played versus not seeing how this year's group has played yet so far. And there are a lot of question marks at corner this year. That being said, losing Peterson, losing Wallace, losing Chandon Sullivan, and losing Pierre, I think were additions. Chandon Sullivan's the one guy that I would still look to bring back. He's still a free agent, and slot corner is our biggest deficiency. So I would definitely consider still bringing Chandon Sullivan as a veteran to this roster as a potential slot corner. That's the one guy that I wouldn't mind seeing come back. But Pierre being gone is a big blessing. I'm surprised he got signed by the Commanders. Wallace got signed by the Broncos, and I'm glad he's gone. And Peterson's still a free agent who's hinted at wanting to come back here to Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh has shown no interest, thankfully. So that being said, the only guarantee we have on this roster as far as a guy that we've seen play in Pittsburgh is JPJ, who's very young. Joey Porter Jr. is great, but he's young. We brought over Dante Jackson. We traded Deontay Johnson to Carolina to get their second corner, Dante Jackson, who's got a lot of upside. But he did play on a bad team. So we saw a bad defense over there, but the whole team was bad. So it wasn't Dante Jackson's fault. Dante Jackson has shown he can play outside or inside. Positional versatility, which I love, Mike Tomlin loves. We've seen his footwork. We've seen him be able to have good closing speed. He's a fast guy. We've seen him be able to get some turnovers and be fast with the ball in his hands, getting things like picks. I think he's even returned a couple of kicks in the past. The dude's got pretty good footwork, and he's pretty fast. So he can play either the number 2 on the outside or the number 3 on the inside. The ideal space here is Corey Trice. There's 2 names here on this list that could make this team exponentially better at corner this year or be about the same, because you can't get much worse than we started. We got better toward the end of the year. Starting the year with the 2 guys we had, we were the worst group in the league. So automatically, I'm going to say the answer is yes, Pittsburgh did get better on this team just by getting Corey Trice back, by adding a few new names, and by getting rid of the 4 guys that made us so bad last year. So right away, I'm going to say we're better, but we're still very unknown. This group is not a sure thing, right? So you got JPJ, who's great but very young, Dante Jackson coming over from a different team, playing here for the first time, and then Corey Trice coming back off injury. So ideally, the best possible lineup here is JPJ on the outside, Corey Trice on the other side on the outside, and then Dante Jackson playing your slot corner. Those 3 starters would be young, athletic, and excellent. Corey Trice was drafted in the 7th round last year in the same draft as JPJ. I had a 3rd round grade on him. Others had a 2nd round grade on him. I thought he was a 3rd round corner, but he had an injury history. But he hadn't been injured for a couple of years, so I thought this was a good move. He comes into OTAs and minicamp and all that and is playing on par with JPJ. Everyone said he was just as good as JPJ, and they saw both those guys being immediate starters. JPJ became a star. Trice didn't get a chance to because he got hurt before preseason. Much like Calvin Austin the year before, Trice never got to see the field in a regular game, including preseason. So we've never seen Trice play a game in the NFL. But from his measurables, from how strong he's come in, he looks big and long. He's got the length. He's got the physicality. He's got the camp experience where he looked good in camp. He looked good in camp so far this year. He's been a big X factor for us. So the question is, again, can he stay healthy? And can he do this on an NFL game level? We don't know yet. My money is on yes, and I really want to see JPJ and Trice, the 2 guys in the same draft, one, who slid to us in the 2nd and one who slid to us in the 7th, being our stars. Another big X factor is Darius Rush, a guy who I think played in Kansas City at one point on the practice squad. He was drafted, I think, in the 4th or 5th round of that same exact draft. JPJ, Trice, and Rush, all drafted in the same draft. Rush was either a 4th or 5th round pick. I had a bit higher grade on him too. I was like a 3rd round guy on him. I liked him coming out. The fact that we got him, he went and played for Indianapolis in their preseason in his rookie year and got a couple of batted balls, I think he got a fumble recovery. He got like a 2nd turnover in there somewhere, but he also got a pick 6. He got an interception and took it to the house. So in limited action for preseason, yeah, you're playing against backups, but at the NFL level, he made a few plays, got a few turnovers, and got a pick 6 in short time. Why he went off the Colts, I don't know. Why he went to KC's practice squad and didn't get to play there, I don't know. There are some questions, obviously. But he came here to Pittsburgh on our practice squad and then played limited action in a couple games toward the end of last year with injuries. Didn't get to see him much. Didn't see him making any real bad plays, but didn't see him making any positive plays either. He was just kind of there, which is not the worst thing for a new corner. Usually you bring up a new corner from a practice squad, especially in his rookie season, he's going to get torched. So the fact that he wasn't noticed one way or the other is kind of a net positive. But again, I was really high on Rush in college, and I liked Rush's preseason NFL footage. I was a fan of where he was coming on from. A little bit smaller than our other two guys, but all the reports are that he has been the single best player in Pittsburgh Steelers minicamps. He has been the number one guy, offense or defense, any position. They said he has stood out more than anybody. He stood out at corner more than Jackson or Trice or JPJ, that he's been playing really good ball. And this makes me happy because, again, I was a fan of him coming out of college, and I think he's got a ton of potential. Again, we don't know how these guys are going to gel together, but Rush is small enough, potentially, and has the ball skills to play the slot corner position. So now you're looking at two possibilities. You're looking at JPJ and Trice on the outside with Dante Jackson on the inside, or if Trice doesn't come along or Trice gets hurt, you got the option of Dante Jackson and JPJ on the outside with Darius Rush on the inside. Those are some options. We also have a couple other guys. We have Ryan Watts, who we drafted in the 7th round, who he's a big physical long project. Dude's like 6'4", massive guy, big guy, long guy, but he plays more safety. He's not really a cover guy. He's a big physical hitter. He's a box guy. I think he's going to translate to safety and try and make the team at safety in the NFL. So I'm not counting Watts at corner. The guy we should have drafted in the 7th over Watts, Beanie Bishop, we got as an undrafted free agent. He was the number 1 corner undrafted guy, and Pittsburgh picked him up. He's a West Virginia guy, and he's got really good ball skills. From what I see, he's pretty physical. He's pretty fast for a guy that size. I think he ran one of the fastest 40s in the entire combine, actually, and made some plays at West Virginia. He's got some heart, and he plays pretty hard. Plays through the whistle. He's got good hands to track the ball. So Beanie Bishop is a guy that we're pretty high on for this team, and he would be an ideal slot corner. And then we also brought over Anthony Averett from a former Raven and played for a couple teams. Signed him. We brought him in as a camp invite, signed him to a contract immediately after, saying he looked pretty good. Neither of these guys has stood out to me in the OTAs or the camp right now. I've not seen much positive or negative from them, but Beanie Bishop is another guy especially. I mean, again, Watts is probably going to be safety. Averett may or may not make this team, but he is a veteran who's played for the Ravens before. He started for the Ravens for quite a bit. He's got experience. So you've got some wild cards. You've got one of the more underrated corners in the draft, the best undrafted corner in Bishop, and you've got Averett, who played for the Ravens, who's a physical corner who's got experience. So you've got two guys here who are unknowns. So, again, if I'm looking at this roster versus last year, and that's the question, is have the Steelers improved their cornerback roster? Again, I'm going to say yes, because it was the worst group in the league last year for half the season until Peterson got moved and JPJ came in. So, with JPJ as your leader this year, automatically getting starts, and the 4 guys who were in the most last year when the team was at their worst at corner, Peterson, Wallace, Sullivan, and Pierre all being gone. And then you get Trice back off injury. You get a full offseason with Rush. You bring in Beanie Bishop and Anthony Averett as possible extra names. I think this roster, in theory, looks better. They're more physical. They're a lot younger. They have the speed, the youth, the power. They're all coming into camp in really good shape. I like this group a lot. But again, this one is one of the most unknowns of the entire team because, again, we haven't seen Trice or Rush start in the NFL in real games, and Dante Jackson played for a different team that was a bad team. And Bishop and Averett hasn't played in the league in a couple of years as far as meaningful regular season NFL action, and Bishop hasn't played yet. So a lot of unknowns. I'm going to say it's an improvement. I love the youth. I love the length. I love a lot of the tangibles we have here, I should say. But we don't know how these guys are going to translate together on this team in an NFL regular season capacity. So lots of questions, but what do you think? Who is your standout besides JPJ, because we know he's the number 1 guy? What do you think about guys like Dante Jackson, Corey Trice, Darius Rush, Beanie Bishop? What do you think of those guys being potential X factors, and what way could they go? What names are you looking at? Please tell me in the comments down below. If you like these deep dives, check out my inside linebacker video, leave a comment on this video, and tell me what other positions you want positions you want to see me deep dive on. I'll see you guys soon. Go Steelers.